Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of self-care as a yoga and meditation teacher, what it's like to be on a retreat or being led by other yoga teachers and meditation teachers when you yourself teach yoga. And also, I just wanted to talk about what an amazing day I had yesterday. My wife and I live about an hour from the Kripalu Yoga Center and Retreat Center in Lenox, Massachusetts. And last year, my wife was given a gift certificate for this amazing retreat center, and life is just busy. And so it's been over a year, and she still hadn't used it. And we finally decided we just needed to book a day. I arranged for one of my adult children to watch our bulldog Chalupa, and we took off in the morning bright and early. We wanted to really milk the day for everything it's worth. So I want to talk about what Kripalu is like in case any of you are interested. I know that can be a little bit of a strange subject amongst yoga teachers, kind of talking about other people's businesses, but here's where I stand on that. I am not a competition girly. I feel like if you like someone else's services better, you should go there. Also, I'm not in direct competition with Kripalu. They're a retreat center. I don't have a retreat center at this point in my career. And the third thing, and the most important thing to me really, is that I am just not competitive in nature. I'm more of the belief that a rising tide lifts all ships, which means if I have a great experience with something and they're my competitor, I am still going to give them props. I'm still going to talk about my positive experience with them. Everything goes around and comes around. There are so many people in this world. This world is so crowded with people. There's no shortage of customers anywhere in any field if you're doing what you do well and with heart and soul. That's my belief. So, all of that being said, if you have never been to Kripalu and you have a chance to go, I highly, highly recommend it. This was my first time, and I've lived here in this area. I've lived in Massachusetts since 2013. I do not know what took me so long to get there, but I'm so glad we went. Like I said, it's only an hour away. We had a lovely drive in the morning, just listened to our August Spotify playlist, and we just had the best time chatting and relaxing in the car on the way there. So it was like retreat had started before we even got there. And at Kripalu, everything is all inclusive in the price, except for special treatments. If you want energy work or a massage or a facial, those kinds of things, you do pay extra for those, but you get, and also snacks, and they have a gift shop. But if you just wanted to go and only spend what you spent to go on the cost of your day pass or on your longer retreat, you can go for a couple days, couple weeks. Honestly, it was the provisions were so amazing that you would not have to spend anything other than that. So we arrived, we got checked in, which was a very fast, seamless process. We were checked in, I would say probably within 5 minutes. And then we made our way upstairs to the dining hall. And every day at Kripalu, breakfast is a silent meal, which was so lovely. Before, I want to pause here and take a little seg and a sideways into a different topic. If you're an introvert and you have worried that going on retreat or going to some kind of a center where you are with hundreds or thousands of other people is going to be wildly overwhelming, let me tell you, this is, for me as an introvert, it's a really dreamy scenario. I was around lots of other people. I love people. I love people so much. And I need people. I need to be around people. And I also get really saturated really quickly if there's a lot of frenetic energy, too many people talking at once, a lot of background noise, that kind of thing. So this with the silent breakfast was lovely. There were all of these people sitting and together, and people might smile at you or nod when they sit down at the shared tables, but no one's talking. And it was so peaceful. And as someone who practices and teaches intuitive eating, this was such a great experience to see all of these people who had nothing to do during their meal except really tune in mindfully to what they were putting in their mouths. And I noticed that compared to when I go to a restaurant and watch people eat, people were eating much slower. They were really tasting their food. You could tell. Some people even closed their eyes while they were chewing. It was beautiful. So back to the food situation at Kripalu. Like I said, when you go, even if you're on a day pass, 3 meals are included every single day. And there's a pretty solid spread. There are always vegan and vegetarian options available. And they also do choose to include fish and poultry options for those who want animal products. But if you wanted to eat purely vegan or purely vegetarian, you would have no problem finding an abundance of foods to fit your diet. They also label every single food on the buffet style lines with the ingredients. So if you've got an allergy, even the drinks, I got this thing called Farmer's Punch from the drinks, and it had every ingredient listed, which is really important for me because I'm highly allergic to chamomile. And a lot of times it's in tea and punch blends, especially in these more earthy settings. And with good reason, it's very calming for people who aren't allergic to it. So I really, really appreciated that. If you have food allergies, obviously it's a buffet. So if you have anaphylactic food allergies, you might want to call and speak to someone before you go. But if you have sensitivities or things that you prefer to avoid for various reasons, it will be very easy for you to avoid those things. So for morning, while I was there, they had a gluten-free oatmeal option. They had steel cut oats. They had scrambled eggs with, I believe, onion and leek in them, and they were delicious. They also had a scrambled tofu that was the same preparation, except that it was tofu instead of eggs. They had fruits, they had breads for toast, and they had bagels and cream cheese and dairy-free vegan cream cheese. It was just really, really lovely. I left breakfast feeling so nourished and just energetic and ready for my day. Food was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And it was also very nutrient dense, which feels so good when you're going to be moving all day. I don't know about you, but if I am moving all day, I really, my body craves even more like vegetables, fruits, things of that nature than normal. And I normally love those things, but when I'm moving a lot, I really want them. And they were there in abundance. So after breakfast, there are all of these options available. I didn't count, but I believe there might be 3 class options at a time. And then they also offer some specials that are constantly rotating. So originally, when we signed up for this day, I thought I was going to go do an hour-and-a-half Ayurveda special. And my wife thought that she would be going out on a kayak adventure. And then we got there, and the silent breakfast was just so beautiful and soul nourishing. We both independently ended up realizing that we needed more quiet and we needed more self-direction, at least at the start of our day. So we parted ways. The campus is huge. It's in the Berkshire Mountains. It's large. It is beautiful. The natural beauty is stunning. I can see the mountains. There's a lake. It's just exquisite. They have hiking trails. So my wife decided to walk towards the lake to go for a swim. I found a cozy spot in the lounge, and in one of the lounges, there are many places to lounge at Kripalu, and I read a one story, which is a literary journal that publishes one story a month. So I spent about an hour just cozied up in this lush upholstered chair reading, and then when I had finished the story, I decided I wanted to get outside, and I went out just to wander around, not sure what I was going to do. And I got outside, and there were people who were doing Qigong on the lawn, and that was really beautiful to witness. This group of, I don't know, maybe 30 people or so, just moving together. It was very beautiful. And so I walked very slowly through that area, just kind of enjoying watching their practice. And then I made my way towards a trailhead that I saw marked as I wandered. And I took a hike alone in the woods, which I rarely do. Honestly, I think it had been years since I took a hike alone. I've had some health issues that in the past have made it so that it was much safer for me to be with someone else. And also, depending on where you are, being a female-bodied person, sometimes it just doesn't feel super safe to go trotting into the woods alone. I felt perfectly safe here on this campus, and I took a little wander into the woods, and I walked for quite some time, just breathing in the stillness. The air was so cool and fresh, and I just felt my heartbeat slowing down, my breath slowing down. I felt so at one with the trees. It was just beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And then when I turned around and I was on my way back, I noticed a seating area off to the side of the trail where there was like a little fire pit and a few benches and things. And I thought it would be such a wonderful place to sit and journal. And I had my backpack with my journals and my books in it. And I took a seat, and pretty quickly I heard some very loud chattering. And there was a really angry squirrel in the tree above me. And he started lobbing acorns. And fair enough, it's his house. I crashed his party. I was in his house without his permission. He didn't like me being there. It was very clear. He was like, what the heck? I could just picture him being like, oh, this retreat center. So I packed up my journal pretty quickly and I left, and I walked back. And when I got back, I was pretty hot and sweaty from my hike. And Kripalu is so beautifully appointed. And if you weren't paying attention, you could almost miss how much attention to detail there is, because it is very simple. In a lot of ways, the spaces are very simple. It's a kind of a minimalist vibe environment. But when I came through the door, I noticed something that I had walked right by and did not notice on my way out, which is that they have a mini fridge right inside one of the doors that has a sign on it that says, please enjoy a cold washcloth. And it had a bin next to it, like a laundry hamper for the dirty ones. And I opened it, and there were stacks and stacks of clean, wet, cold washcloths. Again, such a small detail. A mini fridge is cheap. Bulk white washcloths are cheap. And yet it felt like an extraordinary luxury. My wife was laughing at me because I brought up the cold washcloth 10 times yesterday, because it felt so good after I had been out in the just really, the day was beautiful. It wasn't that hot, but I'd been working hard, and I was really hot and sweaty, and just laying it across my face and wiping down my neck and my arms. It was just such a small luxury. It was one of those things where you realize that feeling a sense of decadence and wealth and abundance doesn't always take a lot of money. A cold, wet washcloth after being out physically exerting yourself, it just hit. So then I went into the little cafe area, and I got a delicious strawberry papaya sparkling probiotic drink out of the cooler, which the cafe is different from the dining hall. The cafe offers drinks and snacks. You do pay extra for those. Again, though, the prices were not totally unreasonable. I've paid more in overpriced tourist areas in big cities. So I felt good about that. And I sat and drank my drink while I did the journaling that was upsetting the squirrel so much, and just people watched. And it was really sweet to be sitting there minding my own business, but hearing what was going on around me. And there was a graduation happening. And so I assume it was for the yoga teacher training program they have. They also have other teacher training programs there. But in any case, there were all of these people pouring in for this graduation. And they were lining up with flowers and things for their loved ones. And there was this man who was about probably my age or a little older, who was sitting behind me. And all of a sudden, I heard a young person say, "Dad, you came?" And it was so clear that he had surprised her. It sounded like he had come from a long distance, and she was so delighted. And she just kept saying, "You're here." And he was laughing, and he said, "Hi, sweet pea." And it was just beautiful. I don't know about you, but I'm someone who really experiences vicarious joy and love from other people's happiness and other people's love. To me, it's almost as fulfilling as experiencing it firsthand for myself. And I just felt overflowing. I was so happy for this young woman, and I was happy for her dad that he got that kind of reception. It was lovely. And I watched this parade of loved ones with their flowers walk into this area where the graduation was being held. And then I meandered into the gift shop. And the gift shop at Kripalu, if you are into books about yoga, mindfulness, meditation, beautiful kind of earthy clothing, jewelry, home decor, just if you don't have a little money to play with, maybe stay out of there, because everything is beautiful. It is so carefully curated. It was lovely. I wanted literally one of everything, which was kind of funny, being in a place that focuses on yoga and meditation, and my materialistic nature just totally kicked in, and I wanted every last thing I saw in there. And I restrained myself. I took a total walk through, and then I left without getting anything, knowing I would come back later in the day after I had let my eyes settle down from the sensory feast, and so that I could also blend that with some pragmatism and some careful selection. I did, however, get this beautiful Japamala bead set, because that's a story for another time. I will tell you at another time on another video about my experiences in the past with mala beads, and how this felt like a reclamation to me after leaving a high control group where mala beads were a major part of the spiritual practice. So I got this for me to reclaim something I loved, a practice I loved that was distorted and perverted by a group that has some major issues. And it felt really healing, which sounds funny to say about beads, but it was really healing to buy these beads for myself yesterday. So I met up with my wife again, and we went to this class called Yoga Dance. Confession, I am not a dancer, meaning I don't have any professional training. I probably don't have the best rhythm. I don't have the moves. I am, however, someone who loves dancing. So if I'm alone or if I'm at a wedding or something, I'm going to be dancing, even though I know it doesn't look great. But I felt really self-conscious because I was in this group with all of these people I did not know other than my wife. I didn't know the teacher. I'd never met her before. I didn't know what to expect, because what the heck is yoga dance? And I it's not a part of my personal practice. And the first, 10 minutes, I felt really self-conscious and really, really awkward and stiff. And then I just let go. And once I let go, it was so much fun. And some of it was actually intentionally designed to shake people up and to do things that were outside of their comfort zone, as far as how they normally move, how they would normally dance in front of other people, to get you used to just feeling into your body and what feels good without worrying about the aesthetics. And it was really lovely. And I ended up having a great time. I just kind of felt a little awkward the whole time, but I enjoyed it. And 10 out of 10, I would do it again. I will do it again. And I'm excited to try it again, especially now that I know what to expect. And after that, we went to lunch, again, lunch buffet style. They have a very basic but nice curated salad bar that's open. They've got a panini press station where you can make your own paninis or grilled cheese, whatever, that kind of thing. And then they have their main offerings, which were lovely. I had some kind of vegetable rice with a pesto chicken that was just fantastic. Kudos to the chefs there, because I think it's really, really hard to cook food that is delicious, that can be served buffet style in massive quantities like they do there for lots and lots of people moving through. And it was really good. And again, really nourishing, really whole foods ingredients, but delicious. It's fantastic. And after lunch, and being a little bit in need of some R&R after the yoga dance, because at this point, like in the afternoon, by the time we finished lunch, it was 2:00. And by the time we finished lunch, already had a long hike and an hour of dancing. So I was pretty tired. And I decided to just have a little bit of quietude for myself. My wife and I went to the gift shop, and we did splurge a little. Like I said, we both got these. A couple of home decor things for our yoga room, which is pretty sparsely decorated at the moment. So you'll see them in future videos when I'm leading yoga classes in the yoga room. And my wife went to get a facial, and I went to a room on the 4th floor called the Sunroom. And the Sunroom is a quiet meditation space. Oh, this is another thing about Kripalu that was so lovely. They do recognize that technology is a part of life, and not everyone, due to medical issues or family constraints, can be completely tech-free. But the invitation and expectation is that you will be tech-free except in designated areas. So there's a lounge downstairs right when you come in that's a tech lounge where you're allowed to be on your phone or your computer. There are phone booths, like old-fashioned phone booths upstairs, where you can take and receive calls that I believe they're soundproof. You're not disrupting other people's experience. The tech-free Sunroom is a quiet space for contemplative activities, meditations. I actually saw several people taking naps, journaling, that sort of thing. And the view is phenomenal because it's on the 4th floor. The Berkshire Mountains, the lake are straight ahead. While I was sitting there, geese flew past the window. I mean, it was just so lovely. It was so lovely. And sat there for a really long time while my wife had her facial, and just watched the beautiful view and meditated. And the furniture in that room is so perfectly appointed, comfy, cozy. They had these beanbag chairs that had their own little ottomans with them, which is where I saw several people napping. And they have these long, like velvet couches with ottomans so that you can get stretched out, comfy, cozy. It really is just such a sweet space. There were ceiling fans going and the windows were open, and it was lovely. So I was reading Susan Piver's book on the Buddhist Enneagram, and I read most of the book yesterday. I'm excited to finish it up this week at home, but I got through most of it yesterday. And I met up with my wife afterwards. We decided that we would take a gentle yoga class before dinner. And we went to this yoga class, and let me tell you, I'm always very curious when I go into a class with a yoga teacher whose work I'm not familiar with, whose style I'm not familiar with. Who's worked with me can tell you that I am very, very big on clients and my students maintaining autonomy of the self, which means I am giving directions, hopefully with really good modifications that can make them more accessible to the bodies who are in the room with me at that time. And I also always want it to be very clear that if something is not feeling right in your body, do not do it. Don't keep pushing. There is a difference between, oh wow, my body doesn't know how to do this yet, so it's uncomfortable, and pain. And most people, I have found, when you explicitly talk about the difference between intensity and painfulness, they're like, oh yeah. Can and should at times be intense. It should never ever be painful, like the pain of an injury. And a lot of people who I've known have been injured in classes by teachers whose expectation was that you override those sensations and keep going, or might even do a hands-on adjustment that causes injury. So anyway, back to this. I'm in this gentle yoga class. First of all, I'm always thrilled when I'm in a yogic space where the teachers are a wide variety of everything, gender and sexual orientations, size, age, ability, disability. It's a really good sign when you go into a place and they've got this kind of diversity of teachers. And it's a really good sign, especially for me as someone who lives and works with a body that is slightly larger bodied, and been through a lot. I've dealt with chronic pain and health issues, and my abilities change from day to day, sometimes even from moment to moment. And I want to point out that that is not something unique to larger bodied people or people with disabilities. If you're really tuned into your body, even if you're very strong, even if you're very slender, even if you're very fit, if you are tuned in, you will begin to recognize that your body's abilities change from day to day and moment to moment, and sometimes, oftentimes, side to side. There might be something that feels amazing on the left side of your body, and then the teacher switches sides and the right side is telling you no. And this teacher came in and immediately greets the class with this message of bodily autonomy and taking care of ourselves and being kind and respectful and responsible to ourselves by honoring what we feel, what we need. Did give really good modifications. It wasn't like she left everyone to just figure it out on their own, but she was also really clear. If you know your body needs something different, like, do what you want, do a different pose, use the props in a different way than I've suggested, lie down, I don't care, like what you need to do to feel really good. And she led this gentle yoga class that it was a big full room. I did not count. I don't know how many people were in there, but it was their main hall, which is large. It's a large space, and it was packed. It was packed. Like, there were times my neighbors and I had to be really careful to not hit each other with our arms. And it was packed with people of, again, every type of body situation you could imagine. It was probably represented in that room. We had, I don't like the term, but I always do end up using it just because it's one that people know what I'm talking about when I say it, which is the typical yoga body. We had young people, like they were in their early 20s with the typical yoga body, strong, flexible, all the way up to extremely, how do I word this? We had many elders present in the room. It was so cool. Like, when I say elders, I knew a couple of people maybe in their 90s. We had such a wide range of bodies in there. One of these elders had a cane that he was using, and used it during some of his, even to do things to modify them in ways that worked for his body. There was another elder who used a back jack and stayed seated against her back jack the whole time and modified these practices for her body at this stage of her life could do. I was doing modifications. The people on either side of me were doing modifications, and I might point out they were doing different modifications than I was doing, and yet somehow the whole room still felt very synchronized. It was cool. It was really, really cool. It was a beautiful class. It was a very skillful teacher. She managed to make all of these different people of differing abilities feel welcome, seen, and I think felt able, because every time I looked around, people were smiling or exhaling really deeply, and like, just feel it. And it was a gentle class. And the great part about it was that it was gentle. It was also challenging in parts for me. And felt good. It felt really, really good. And when we left, again, like I said, which I noticed during the practice, as we were walking out the door, people looked one of two ways. They looked really at peace and relaxed and like, or they were smiling, just vibrant smiles. And I can't recommend this kind of a practice enough if you have only been to yoga classes that really, really are just about the shapes. If they're just about looking a certain way, the aesthetics, if you're a hardcore vinyasa flow, about sculpting, getting thin, sweating, I recommend you try these. And I don't say that to poo-poo on the kinds of classes I just mentioned. In fact, I oftentimes enjoy a harder, vigorous vinyasa class when my body is in the right space for it. So they do have a place, and I am not in any way denigrating that practice. I love it. I teach it. It's a balance. It's a balancing act. And that's really a large part of yoga, right? It's about figuring out like what body needs in any given moment on any given day. And this class did that. It gave people a chance to figure out for themselves with skillful guidance what felt good that day in that moment. And after we left class, it was dinner time. We were famished. Back to the dining hall. They had oven fried chicken. They had a baked tofu that was like the oven fried chicken, from coated tofu, the lovely salad bar. They had twice baked potatoes that were delicious, blueberry cardamom bread that was amazing, lots of veggie options. They always have lots of beverage options. In the morning, they had coffee. At night, they had a lot of hot teas were out. They have iced teas of various kinds, both herbal and caffeinated black tea. They have this farmer's punch. In the morning, they have fresh orange juice. Lovely setup. So we enjoyed a nice leisurely dinner. At this point, it was 7 o'clock. We had been planning to stay for this body scan after dinner, which I'm sure was beautiful. And if we had been there on a longer retreat, if we had been planning to stay for days or a couple of weeks, I'm sure it would have been an amazing experience. But it was a really full day. And I'll tell you what, after a self-guided hike and a dance class and a yoga class, I was tired, and I knew I had an hour drive ahead of me, and it was still pretty light at 7 o'clock, and we decided to just hit the road and come back. It was a good call because I drank 2 glasses of iced tea during dinner, which was great because I felt very alert during my drive. And even still, we got home, we talked to my child who had been watching my dog for maybe 40 minutes or so. But they left. They had an hour, well, not quite an hour, about a 40-minute drive back to their home. And so we said good night to them, and we were in bed by 9 o'clock. And I'm usually someone who takes a long time falling asleep, and I was out. I missed the check-in text from my kid when they got home saying I got home safely, because I always ask them to do that because I'm still a mom even though they're 30. Well, 31. Oh my gosh. Never mind. Yeah, they're 31. I'm still a mom, and I still ask for, could you let me know you got home safely texts. And they did that, but I didn't see it until this morning because I was so out. I slept 12 hours. I slept from like last night or shortly thereafter until 9 o'clock this morning. And I only got up because my wife came to wake me up. I might have slept even longer. And it wasn't the kind of sleep that's like, oh gosh, I overdid it, you know, paying for it now. It wasn't that. I think it was more that I was in a self-care deficit. And finally giving myself the space to breathe, the space to care for my own body, which I do on a regular basis. Make it a point to eat nourishing whole foods. I make a point to get a lot of joyful movement in, and yet somehow it's still different than having your entire calendar cleared to just spend like a whole day doing nothing but indulging your mind and your body and your emotions, which is what I did. I spent the entire day just tuning in and listening to what I wanted and what I needed. And if you can't go somewhere like Kripalu, although I want to say too, I believe they also offer financial aid. So if you ever think, oh, I would love to do something like that and I can't, always check. Always check. Sometimes there are options you don't know are available to you. But anyway, what I was going to say is, if you can't make that happen, whether due to money or time or circumstances, you can plan your own retreat at home. And you can do this in a number of different ways. But if you can find one day of 1 week where you can spend a whole day not worrying about the house, make sure you've got like the foods, whatever you want on hand ahead of time, and spend a whole day creating your own self-styled retreat. And maybe you'll have a time in the morning for journaling and or live yoga class with a teacher online, and maybe you take a slow walk around your neighborhood. You get the picture. I think some version of this is available to everyone. And before anyone's like, that's the stage of life you're in. No. When I had 3 kids, and there were times in my life when I had 3 kids, and I had, to say extreme financial difficulties would be an understatement. We were living in poverty. Things were tense, and I was hustling around the clock basically to try to feed my kids and to just pay rent. And even in those times, even if I had to plan it out a long time in advance, I was able to find an occasional day where I could take care of myself. And with kids in the house, that looked differently. I will tell you that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And it was still intentional, and it still mattered, and it still increased the quality of my life and gave me some space and some breathing room. There are almost always ways. And I'm not saying this as like, oh, anybody can retreat. I am saying it like, if one option isn't available to you, then maybe look for another option. And I'll open that up a bit more and just say, if you are thinking, I have no clue how I could make this work in my life, on my website at www.studio138healingcenter.com, I have a thing where you can schedule a free consultation with me. It's usually used by people who are trying to figure out if we're a good fit for coaching, but I always tell people I genuinely love hearing from you if it's something related to what I'm doing. So if you're like, in my circumstances, I'm not sure how I could create a retreat and I know I can't afford your services, you could still use one of those slots, and I would be happy to talk to you for a few minutes about what we could do that would work. And when I say we, I mean either, sort of a sliding scale thing with myself, or if you are even like, that's not something you can do, I would be happy to just talk to you and help you create something for you, by you. And that's a genuine offer. I very rarely have people take me up on it because I've found something really interesting over the years that I've made these kinds of offers, is that when I've made sliding scales and discounts widely available, oftentimes the people who asked for them have been people who in fact could afford my services and were prioritizing other things like saving for a vacation. And the people who genuinely could not afford my services were very reluctant to make use of free or sliding scale because they valued my work and they knew it was real work. So please know that this is a genuine, heartfelt offer. If you want 15 minutes of my time to help you out on creating a space, no matter how small, for yourself, where you could have something of a retreat, I am there for you. Hit me up. I love it. I love connecting with people. I love connecting with people who watch my videos or read my newsletters or who visit my website. I love what I do, or I wouldn't do it. Trust me, there are things I could be doing with my time that would pay more than what I do. What I do out of love and dedication, and because I know it matters and because I know it works. So that is my message for you. And for those of you who, again, can get yourself to Kripalu, I 10 out of 10 recommend it. It was one of the best days I've had in a long time. It was a beautiful experience. Everyone I encountered was kind. It was quiet. It was soul nourishing. The natural beauty was astonishingly beautiful. The facilities are simple and well kept, and it's just a lovely, lovely place to visit. So again, talk to me in the comments. Tell me about your experiences with retreat. If you're a teacher, I would really love to hear from you about your experiences of being led by others and what that's like for you, and what it's like to retreat. And if not, if you're a student who does retreat, I'd love to hear from you what you have gotten out of it. Anytime, I'm here. Have a great day.